Hi there, and more people have shown up in that time. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello, and thank you very much for coming to this latest installment of Poetic License. I know I have to show off my signs, Poetic License, because we used to be in a store. I think Susan might remember that we used to be at a store, but I have to say I do like this space because I can get people back from Chicago, as well as thank you to our Zoom host, John F. McMullen. We can set it up on the East Coast. And I've got people from the UK here too, which is triple plus awesome. Hello, hello, boys and girls.
There's also people from Auburn, Alabama.
Sorry, I didn't say Alabama. Forgive me.
For now.
For now, because she's going to be going to where Dan is and where I used to be, and that's groovy cool. So, and another time I guess we can ask about that stuff, but because we had all of our talking stuff done. But I usually start my open mic thing, you guys all know this, by reading poetry from one of my literary magazines, the oldest one. This is cc&d magazine. Recently I had heard about how dinosaur tracks, because of how arid it had been, how dry and how hot it had been, that this summer more dinosaur tracks were actually exposed. And we're like, we should actually go to Dinosaur Valley, which is not that far from here. And we waited long enough for rainstorms to come. But we got some cool shots of dinosaurs, and of course people had stories. I mean, I've got the next issue, which is not this one yet, with a piece called Dinosaur Tracks, and I'll have to use this cover from it. This was a magazine that was titled Pieces from the Past, and this is just some of the dinosaur tracks. I'm trying to show it so that people can see it in the Zoom meeting here, ladies and gentlemen. But it was cool to be walking along. Actually, I can tell you guys, as we were standing there, a guy is there and his dog starts licking water out of one of the spaces. He's like, hey, don't do that. Oh my God, he's licking water out of dinosaur tracks. And I'm like, that's kind of funny. Because you don't know where the water's been or whatever. But that was just a funny reference to me. Anywho, it was a cool thing to see, and it was a cool thing to be able to show. That's the back cover here for you guys. cc&d magazine. But actually the first poem or two I was going to read from this were not only in cc&d. It's really weird because I've got a live video feed that's vertical this time, but it's also a poem that is in the Cyberwit book titled Shattering the Glass Ceiling. It has a lot of stuff in it. I won't go into details or explaining all this for you guys, but this first poem is in both of those books, and it is also in the performance section of cc&d, which I'm not going to point out to you, but anywho, found it, haha. And it is titled Domestic Violence in America, Nashville, Tennessee. There were two poems about that. This first one, there was one about a nose. This one that I'm sharing with you is about a stick. Domestic Violence in America, Nashville, Tennessee, stick. According to accounts, her husband allegedly locked her and their 4-year-old son in their home for about 40 hours. They were essentially hostages. The husband then allegedly beat the woman while the son watched. This is the stick he allegedly used to keep her in line. It looks like a metal broom or mop handle. It's hollow, and you see here is a bend in it from the alleged hitting. The bend looks like a twist of a garden hose. And then here's a bloody knit glove. It was tied on here at the end of the stick, so that when he allegedly hit her, it didn't scar her. Isn't that funny? You can tell that the son was there for it all, too. He doesn't talk much at all, and he never leaves his mother's side. She limps down the hallway now, and he follows. These were, as I had said, they're both in cc&d. You happen to see that there were performance art photos because we have a performance art section. I might as well show those performance art photos off, but they're not the best. I was in a desanctified church, St. Paul's, for doing readings, and this was one of the ones that I was doing, Domestic Violence in America, so there are 3 shots from that. But I will spare you other photos, I guess, and do this next one, which is not only in cc&d, I just lost my spot in it, not only in cc&d, but also in not only Shattering the Glass Ceiling, but also in a book titled Bon Voyage, and it was about traveling in India as a woman and as a vegetarian, because there are so many fascinating things that go on when you are essentially a second-class citizen with a different religion, but at least you have this concept of they're not having meat around. So there were all these weird things, and so there are a lot of journal entries and everything that are in this book and a select few poems. But I'm going to share with you a journal entry that is in all three of these, Bon Voyage, Shattering the Glass Ceiling, and Pieces of the Past. This is a journal entry that was from 2015, 1:16, 8:07 a.m. IST, or 8:36 p.m. CST. 11 and a half hours difference. They had a half-hour time change, so maybe they don't do the time changes for springing forward and falling back in India. I don't know, but this is a journal entry. While in India, John said to me, "So you know, all these horn honks are not for you," because usually at my home, whenever I go for a walk along the streets, I'd usually get at least one horn honking, or at least maybe also a cat call from an open window, because men are often so base and sexually rude that way. And I laughed, and I said, I knew that. Everyone here honks at everything here, because people cram into any spaces they can, and they don't use lanes, and they don't use stop signs. I get it. But not 15 seconds after he said that to me, I sensed someone was walking behind us. I signaled John to move to the side so that they could pass, because as a woman, being followed is usually not a good thing, because anything could be a threat. But just after he made this comment about the horn honks for me, and it's about how I let somebody walking behind us get past us, that's when we both watched this man, probably all 5'2" of him, even after he was in front of us, repeatedly turn around to look at me specifically. He'd look back whenever he was walking, and then he would turn again, look at me for a second or two, and then turn back to watch where he was walking. He did this at least 6 times until we made a point to get off that road. Well, it's nice to see that sexism and men degrading women is global. And that was the crazy thing, because I'm a tall woman, and John probably always would think, my husband, like, you know, it's probably not that big of a deal. But even when he was walking with me, people on the other side of the planet were turning around and gawking, which was, you know, thanks. You just love it. Thank you so much. You're the best. But anywho, and that one doesn't have any sort of imagery for it because I haven't read it places, but I am going to share with you one more performance art piece, and it's a shame that Tom Woodruff isn't here, because this was written for the most recent Animal Tales book from 2023, and I've even got little shots of myself reading it at Animal Tales in here, and it is titled Vintages, Tapestries, and Memories. You never live in the world as it is. Everything you've ever seen, it arrived to you at the speed of light. Feel the heat of the sun as it existed 8 1/3 minutes ago. Or remember throwing the ball to your cat. It happened longer ago than you think, for you even see those pets from nanoseconds ago. You only experience things as they are in a tapestry of past vintages. This must be why I can't believe that my cats, my loved ones, once filled with such life, are now gone. When I vividly remember her laying along my leg, purring, gently moving her back paw repeatedly over my hand, and then resting her leg on my wrist. I am positive I can still feel him jumping into my bed, resting his paws on my shoulder, laying down and purring a peaceful symphony to my ear. You're right. I never live in the world as it is, when all I memorialize is my cats licking forks clean when we'd feed them, or how when we'd play hide and seek with the laser pen lights, hearing their little paws thumping and scurrying, or even when she would move her eyes to just inches from mine for her treats, right up till the end when death was at her door. I never saw him go blind or her body shut down. They may have lived if we didn't have to wait for the interminably slow speed of light. Or if only we didn't wait to experience these past vintages of our loved ones instead. Sorry. Thank you for the thumbs up, you guys. And as I said, I'd showed it in here that inside the book it existed that way, but I figured since I have a tablet, wait, I can find a photo, and these might have been shots that were taken of me while I was reading it. And we're Salado, Texas. I'm trying to remember the town for it, but in Salado, Texas, there were a couple of shots from it. But anywho, I know you got women's issues ones, and you didn't get any periodic table ones like my t-shirt has, so maybe I might throw them in for you for the second round. But thank you very much for you guys for listening. I'm going to go through the list once really quick so you guys all know who the order is, and then as I call up people, I will call up the next person and let the person behind them know that they'll be following them, just so they can get a heads up so they're ready for it. Of course, it's John F. McMullen, our Zoom host, that will be first, and then Susan, and then Dan Weinberg, Lorna, Brian, and then Richard Kent, who has been muted all this time, but we're looking forward to hearing from him. So, John F. McMullen, I hope you've got 3 pieces for us, because the Zoom stage is officially yours. Are you ready, my darling?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Take it away.